Trade talk on a Wednesday here on Fantasy Football Today. What's going on, everybody? The whole gang is together. Adam, Jamie, Heath, Dave, talking trades. You're never going to guess who the most traded player is. You can try, but you're never going to get it right. Go ahead. Go. Most traded.
Jamar
Chase. Jamar Chase, no. He's on a bye.
So?
The player's on a bye?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the player's on a bye.
Yeah.
Most traded. Jerome Ford.
Oh, Dave. Wouldn't have got it without my clue, but congratulations. Jerome Ford has been traded over 1,300 times in CBS sports leagues. Is that a buy low or a get the hell off my roster? What is that all about? Jerome Ford, because Raheem Mostert being the number 2 most traded, that one I get. What would you do with Jerome Ford right now?
Sell high.
You could try and do it. There are people that are desperate for running backs, and they want to get somebody who they feel like they can count on. Jerome Ford is getting a decent amount of work, right around 60% of the snaps, 65% of the snaps for Cleveland. And if you're desperate for a running back, that's somebody that people are picking up, and maybe they're doing it on the cheap. I'd like to know what those trades look like. What are they giving up to get Jerome Ford?
I will ask the 1,364 people who have made the trade. I will find out for you, and I will report back.
We have a database where we get all their phone numbers. You can call them all.
Somebody in the chat has traded Jerome Ford. Like, tell us in the chat who you traded Jerome Ford for. I hope there's probably somebody in the chat who traded for Jerome Ford as well. I hope you didn't give up much.
We can get them together. He's outside of my top 24 amongst running backs rest of season.
Okay. I tried to trade him last week, as you recall, on this very show for Mark Andrews, and it didn't work. So I had to trade DeAndre Swift for Mark Andrews. Okay, but I love trades. I'm going trying very hard to trade for Jalen Waddle this week. I think most people probably aren't too worried, but it's been a terrible start, and you never know. I want to know who you guys are looking to buy low on, who you're looking to sell high on. We'll talk about Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp. We've got a surprise game coming up. We've got some advanced stats. We're talking about the Thursday night game, Chicago at Washington. Fill in the blank. Busy show. Heath Cummings, start us off. Favorite buy low?
It's Breece Hall. I had tweeted, and I'm not sure if he did too much against the Chiefs, but I tweeted during that Chiefs game, if there's any way that the Chiefs could keep him from exploding in this game, I'm going to send out a bunch of Breece Hall trade offers this week. That'll happen today, I guess, because I haven't done it yet. But we've seen the big play potential pop a couple of times. The whole theory against drafting Breece Hall early was that he's coming off an ACL and he's going to get off to a slow start. He's going to be limited. Dalvin Cook looks like he has absolutely nothing left. And they're playing the Denver Broncos this week. Like, if the breakout's probably going to happen in 5 days. So go get him while you can.
But he only had 6 carries. So are you really he's had 10, 4, 12, and 6. So are you really confident? If you look at the schedule, Denver this week, then Philadelphia is tough, then a bye. Are you thinking maybe more, if it doesn't happen this week, after the week 7 bye, more likely to happen?
I think it can happen this week on 6 carries. I can't imagine why you'd need more than that against the Broncos. And then
I'm very confident it's going to happen this week.
Good. There we go.
Interesting.
Maybe you sit him against Philadelphia. Maybe, depending on what your team looks like. And then he gets healthy on the bye. And then I think you probably see more like 12 plus carries after the bye.
Okay. So I'm assuming all of you would be fine trading Jerome Ford for Breece Hall.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should expect to probably give up another starter in that deal if I was guessing, but
yeah. Well, to support Jerome Ford, I think I did this on a previous show. We knew he had these really tough matchups, but if he's still the starting running back and not really getting too much of a threat from Kareem Hunt later in the year, I couldn't that pay off as a solid, number 2 running back?
Especially when he takes on the Jaguars, Bears, and Texans in weeks 14, 15, and 16. Although I don't know if the Texans' run defense is really a weak spot anymore. But you gotta wait that long. You know that the schedule's tough for him even after the bye. San Francisco and Indianapolis, the 2 weeks after. What does the eyeball test show you? He's had 2 games as a starter. He's had some good plays, and the catches definitely help him out. But he's not efficient. Like we now know the reason why he wasn't mixing in with Nick Chubb much before Nick Chubb got hurt.
It's gonna be touchdowns. It's gonna be the 3 catches are gonna have to help him. I think the the one thing that's interesting with the Browns moving forward is Kevin Stefanski threw his quarterback under the bus. If the snippet of the quote that was circulated is accurate, you know that you never want to take just a few words in a press conference out of context, as if you saw the Jamar Chase clip as well. But the fact that Kevin Stefanski threw his quarterback under the bus, seemingly, I think they're still going to try and limit what Deshaun Watson does, because I don't think Kevin Stefanski likes his quarterback very much.
Okay, Dave, who's your favorite buy low?
Brees Hall was my favorite buy low. I'm still a big fan of Dameon Pierce as a buy low. And I love I don't love the fact that he had a touchdown called back in week 4. I would have preferred that he actually scored the touchdown, but for the buy low case, I think it's great that that touchdown did not count for him. I think that he's still got plenty of potential to be the heavy down workhorse running back for Houston. We've seen that backfield go. I think this is what we're hoping for with the Jets. Go from 3 guys being used from week to week down to 2, and then one of the 2 being the lead guy. And I think Pierce can be the lead guy. That offensive line could get healthy really quick. It's already been pretty good. And I know that they just lost another interior lineman. It was their worst lineman that got hurt in week number 4. So I think Pierce is going to have the workload. I think the touchdowns will come. He's looked explosive when he's actually had room to run. And I still believe that he can be finished the year as a top 15 type of fantasy running back.
Okay, Brees Hall or Dameon Pierce rest of season?
Hall.
I have Hall higher in PPR. They're the same in non-PPR.
Yeah, I think there's more upside with Hall. There's probably a safer floor with Pierce, just knowing what the ACL injury has typically done for the guys in their first year back.
Jamie, who's your favorite buy low?
You said a few of them already. I'm going to go to Ramondre Stevenson. 2 good fantasy outings to start the season, 2 miserable ones the last 2 weeks. I'm hoping that when the offensive line gets a little bit healthier and Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi situation gets figured out, Bill Belichick said his mistakes were uncharacteristic against the Cowboys. I don't know if I buy that. So I don't know if Mac Jones can get figured out, but I still think there's an opportunity here for Ramondre Stevenson to deliver top 20-ish production. I don't think he's going to be a top 12 guy like I had hoped. I don't really worry about Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's just a speed bump in the way for whatever Ramondre Stevenson can be. So I think there are better days ahead for Ramondre Stevenson, especially as the schedule gets a little bit better as the season goes on.
Okay. So Brees Hall for Heath, Dameon Pierce for Dave, Ramondre Stevenson for Jamie. Anybody want to throw out a non-running back?
Sure. How about Jalen Waddle?
Yeah, you said that already. That's why I didn't say Waddle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I made a trade offer last night for Waddle and Dallas Goedert. And
You offered Jerome Ford?
yeah, I offered Jerome Ford and Antonio Gibson, I think, was the other one in that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through what the trade offer was, but
we got to hear it now.
It's not that bad. I offered Ken Walker the deal. So
Okay. Let's run it through the trade chart. Let's go.
He doesn't want to. There's more people that he's asking for.
Yes, that is true. Well, this has no chance of being accepted now, but you never know. I offered. All right, let's see. It's in the podcast league, so this person's definitely listening. So if you wouldn't mind helping me out here, I offered Ken Walker, T. Higgins, and Jake Ferguson for Travis Etienne, Jalen Waddle, and Dallas Goedert.
That's not awful.
I don't think that's awful at all.
Yeah, right. I mean, like Ferguson's been better than Goddard. Walker, I would rather have Walker than Etienne, so I'm giving up the best player in the deal. And then Higgins versus Waddle might be sort of close at some point. So we'll see. But Waddle can't wait. Dallas Goedert could not be this bad, right?
Higgins and Waddle were pretty close in draft rankings, and Higgins has probably scored more fantasy points this year, right?
Yeah. He had one
because he had that monster game. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, Waddle also missed the game too. So.
All right, so tell them to accept. So
I wouldn't take it. No chance.
Oh, shut up, Heath. I didn't ask you. But seriously, Goddard can't be this bad. Nick Sirianni said they want to get him more involved. He's still a big part of the passing game. Been one of the most efficient tight ends in football, like year after year, and he's just having a horrible season.
He's having a horrible season for him. It's not necessarily a horrible season for the position. Like he's led 2 games with 9 PPR points, which is about that's good.
He's tight end 38 in non-PPR. I guess
he's had 2 awful games.
completely different tight end conversation if
30.
it's PPR or non-PPR.
Well, okay, sorry. He's tight end 30 in PPR. He scored fewer points than Kyle Pitts. My bad. He's been horrible. Anybody believe in Dallas Goedert right now?
I think the type of trade you're trying to pull off where you're having him thrown into a deal is perfect. I don't know if I want to trade, somebody of name value to get Dallas Goedert because he still has name value. Like, I need to see it first. But it's good that Nick Sirianni's saying that they want to get him going. And look, prior to last week, the two previous games, the targets and the receptions were there. So I don't think he's washed as a player. I just think the situation right now is pretty crappy.
They don't use him downfield. His ADOT going into last week was under 5 yards. So it's really hard for him to make an impact when he's catching a bunch of short passes. And this is a team, when they get near the goal line, what do? It's the tush push. They're pushing Jalen Hurts over the goal line. They're not throwing. I think they had the second lowest pass rate inside the 5 last week. So, or over the season going into last week, I should say. There's a lot to dislike about Goddard. And in non-PPR, I'd like to find another tight end.
They're calling it the brotherly shove.
Yeah.
A lot of people call it the tush push. The
tush push is way more fun.
The brotherly shove is very clever. And if you want to contrast two franchises, the Eagles pick up first downs or score touchdowns on almost every single tush push. The Giants tried it once and 2 players got injured on the play.
Well, did you see what Daboll said?
No. Well, yeah, I think so. About that play?
Yes. He said, we only did it in a walkthrough. We never practiced it.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, it wasn't a live.
There are some bad vibes on that sideline.
Everywhere. All right. Favorite sell highs right now. How about Jamie?
I would be trying to sell. I know this sounds a little maybe counterproductive to what he could be, but I'd still be trying to sell Jonathan Taylor. Just based on the fact, like, his name is still carrying a ton of value, understandably so, and he still could be awesome. But what if the ankle's a problem? What if he gets traded to a team that's not going to necessarily enhance his value to the level of making him a top 5 running back, and he's just maybe part of a committee? Who knows? So there's a lot of people clamoring for running backs. There's a lot of people would still like to have them on their team, and if you can get something great in return, I'd be doing it.
Like what? What would you be looking for Taylor?
Well, I mean, if you can get Jalen Waddle and let's say another running back thrown in with that, I would try to do something like that.
Would you take Waddle and Ford?
I would not take Waddle and Ford. I think you still got to get something good in return. But like, if you could turn Jonathan Taylor maybe into Waddle and Kamara, I would do that.
I think everybody would. I agree with. I think he's a sell high, as long as you get something really good for him. Like, if you can get Kamara and Waddle for him, take that trade. Because when he comes back, we don't know how much he'll play. Sykin already said that they're going to rotate him in on his first game. He hasn't practiced in 6 months plus. He also doesn't have the same type of upside working with Anthony Richardson. And we talked about that in July and in early August. If he gets traded, yeah, I think that's what helps his case, actually, because he could go to a team like Baltimore. Jamie, I know you brought that up as an option. He could be a monster there. But I don't think a trade's coming. I don't think a team wants to pay him. And I don't think that he wants to like, I don't know if he doesn't want to go to another team where he's going to be stuck on the same contract as now. I don't know what's going through his head. I think he might just accept going back to the Colts. And there's a chance he just plays whatever he needs to play to get credit for this year and then sitting out the rest of the season. And that would be a doomsday scenario.
Okay.
This is a sell high window. Absolutely. I agree.
If you're drafting today, we're redrafting right now. What round for Taylor? What round for Kupp?
So rest of season on draft.
Mm-hmm.
Kupp's round 2. Taylor's round 3.
That's fair.
I was thinking 2 for both. Like, I think if Taylor is round 3, then you'll have a hard time getting more than Waddle for him, because we haven't dropped Waddle out of round 3, have we?
Yes.
Oh, so you have downgraded Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's more of like a late round 4 type guy. He's still a top 50 player.
That's a big swing.
I don't think he's late round 4 guy. I think he's in round 3 guy.
I don't know. I don't know if the consistency is going to be there. He should have had a touchdown last week. If he had scored the touchdown, it would have been worth 16 PPR points. And I think we would be happy with that. And then he wouldn't be a buy low wide receiver.
Right.
But I don't know how often, especially now that they've got a really good run game, how consistent will Jalen Waddle be?
I don't know. Mike McDaniel's got this trigger finger ready to go to start throwing the ball a lot more. I think it happens this week.
I don't know. They're going to struggle this week. All right.
He can do whatever he wants this week.
Heath, who's your favorite sell high?
I'll go with Mr. Touchdown. Well, I guess there's a couple of Mr. Touchdowns, but Kyron Williams. Like he's a little bit dinged up, so that might make the trade more difficult. I would rather have Jonathan Taylor than Kyron Williams rest of season. So I think you're looking at Kyron Williams as maybe like if you could get a player who you think should be drafted in the first 3 rounds, I would definitely take that. I'd view him more as like a round 4 type guy. I'm not sure we're going to get the same number of targets if Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are both in the receiving core. And so much of his rushing production is just touchdowns.
Okay.
I wonder though, Heath, if like just based on the game we saw from Zach Moss, and I don't want to compare Zach Moss to Jonathan Taylor because they're nowhere near the same realm, but no receptions and no touchdowns for Jonathan Taylor. Like let's say he's just a 100-yard rushing guy, doing what DeAndre Swift has done without the couple of touchdowns that he scored and what we saw last week in the passing game. Like if Kyron Williams' situation is better than Jonathan Taylor's, if they're both healthy rest of season.
Yeah, there were some running back targets in Richardson's first game and a quarter, though, right? Like Deion Jackson flubbed up a bunch of targets, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying there's going to be no running back targets.
Right.
There's obviously going to be a handful, but is it going to be consistent, especially knowing what running quarterbacks typically do?
By the way, the Colts have only 1 running back touchdown so far this year. So when Jonathan Taylor comes back, is that the end of the Anthony Richardson fund? The touchdowns are going away. Hot garbage will be here.
You're finding anything to make that take work, right?
If Anthony Richardson had 0 touchdowns this year, would he still have more fantasy points than Daniel Jones?
I mean, do you always have to make this about Daniel Jones?
Why would you bring the heart garbage thing up again?
I'm just joking. I'm making fun of myself, and you're making fun of me. So, like,
seems like we're on the same side.
Okay, yeah, there we go. We're on the same page. Dave,
who was the quarterback you were taking ahead of him? Was it Deshaun?
Deshaun Watson for sure. Who, by the way, Deshaun Watson has. I'm gonna let you know. Honestly, I didn't even see what Kevin Stefanski said. I had to Google it after Jamie said. Kevin Stefanski kind of questioned Deshaun Watson sitting out with the shoulder injury while praising David Njoku for playing with the burns. But John Watson's actually had 2 good fantasy games with like 22 or more points. I'm not saying I take him over Richardson, but I think the perception is a little bit different than the reality for Watson because he looks so bad. But he's actually been okay for fantasy. Well, of course, the Titans helped with that regard. Jonathan Taylor for Jamie, Kyron Williams for Heath, who he said was still a guy he valued as a 4th-round pick. So you don't have to sell Kyron Williams, but if you can turn him into something great. And Dave, real quick for you, as I do have to get to a fun game before Jamie has to leave early today. Who's your favorite sell high?
David Montgomery, 3-touchdown game. I know that he's going to be the lead lines running back, but he's never going to have a game like this. You got the best out of him. See if you can find a running back desperate manager to overpay for him.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure I agree. Like, he's going to keep doing this. I don't know if he's right. He's not going to score 3 touchdowns, Dave, but don't you think he's clearly going to be their lead running back? I don't see any reason for them right now to go to Gibbs.
Well, what's his stat line when he doesn't score?
Why wouldn't he score?
All he does is score.
Why wouldn't he score? Like,
I think there will be some games, shockingly, where he will not score a touchdown.
Yes,
and
yes. But the guy he replaced,
that'll be a little bit tough to do.
The guy he replaced averaged a touchdown a game last year. It's like,
and he's better than him.
Okay, so if you can sell high on somebody like that and maybe upgrade at wide receiver and get one of those wide receivers that we took with the top 25-ish pick, I think you should do it. I wouldn't take Waddle for him. I'd want something with Waddle for him. But can you turn him into Devontae Smith after Smith's coming off 2 games without a touchdown? In PPR leagues, I would do that.
Would you guys rather have Kyron Williams or David Montgomery?
Montgomery.
Williams.
All right. Thursday night, join us for our live stream before the game, before Chicago, Washington, which we will talk about in a little bit. YouTube.com/fantasyfootball today. We'll be answering your starter sit questions or any questions you have. YouTube.com/fantasyfootball today. And that will be me, Dave Richard, and Jacob Gibbs making his first appearance on a live stream this year. News and notes real quick. Dave already mentioned this, but Houston left guard Kendrick Green, who Dave said was their worst offensive lineman, is actually someone they traded for to replace another injured lineman earlier this year. He's out indefinitely with a torn meniscus. They could get center Juice Scruggs back in week 6. Kenny Pickett is questionable with a bone bruise. Pete Carroll said, quote, "I think so," when asked if Geno Smith was okay. They have their bye week. Nick Sirianni said the Eagles need to get Dallas Goedert the football. Buffalo edge rusher Von Miller is hoping to play this week in London against Jacksonville. That is a Buffalo home game. And Chicago safety Eddie Jackson and cornerback Jalen Johnson both missed practice, which would obviously help the passing game for the Washington Commanders. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll do a little fill in the blank from the audience, and we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Welcome back, everybody. Let's do some fill in the blank here. I put the tweet out earlier, so let's see.
Is this your game?
What's that?
Is this your game?
I did make up fill in the blank. Thank you for reminding me. I had totally forgotten about this invention. From Aaron St. Dennis. I think we kind of covered this. The disappointing player who is about to turn it around is blank.
I think we all just gave a guy earlier.
Yeah.
In the show, right?
There's got to be more than
maybe 2.
I've buy lows.
Well, of course. I mean, we could probably do a whole show on the T. Higgins if he gets healthy.
See, that's the thing. I don't really think people are so aggressive. I don't know. Do you think people are aggressively going after Bengals right now with how
We just
bad
had a trade in our salary cap league where Zach Brook and Jack Capitordo made a trade. I think it was Christian Watson and somebody for T. Higgins. Oh, Quentin Johnston. It was Christian Watson and Quentin Johnston for T. Higgins.
Yeah, the problem I have with T. Higgins as an answer to that is about to turn it around. Like if the answer is going to turn it around in the next month, I'd feel pretty good about T. Higgins.
Yeah.
I wonder if the
Joe Burrow.
Bengals continue to lose, does he become a trade chip for a draft pick in real life? Like, hi, Kansas City. Go get T. Higgins.
Oh, man. That'd be awesome. All right, let's do some different fill in the blanks here. From Ken, if Cooper Kupp returns in week 5 and plays the rest of the season, Puka Nacua is a top blank wide receiver rest of season.
30.
26.
Yeah, I think it's probably 30. It's the question is, has Puka done enough to where Cooper Kupp's a 27% target share guy instead of 32? Because if that's the case, then it could be 20. But 30 is a good answer.
I think it's not apples to apples, but just in terms of Matthew Stafford supporting 2 wide receivers, we've clearly seen it already this season. Where both Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua have been fairly productive aside from week 4. So it can still happen. Problem is does Tutu go away? And does Tyler Higbee go away? And then it's like, okay, I think there's just a lot of mouths to feed in this offense all of a sudden.
All right, next fill in the blank. Nico Collins from David. Nico Collins is a top blank wide receiver rest of season.
15.
22.
18. I'll split the difference.
Nico or Jalen Waddle?
Nico.
I could buy into Nico.
Sure.
Logan Thomas will score blank touchdowns against the Bears on Thursday.
0.
0 is probably a good guess.
DeAndre Hopkins from Riley. DeAndre Hopkins is a top blank wide receiver rest of season.
35.
42.
I'll go 30.
This one is pretty interesting to me, guys, because there are some good, I think, underlying metrics here for Hopkins. He's just not healthy. So I wonder, could he actually get back to being close to a must-start receiver if he's healthy? Because target per route run or yards per route run or something like that, he's like, I think target per route run, he's one of the leaders. We just haven't really seen, he's just
definitely targets, not yards, I think.
It can't be yards. He had a shot at a long touchdown last week on a trick play, but pass was a little bit too long. What is going to help him and really help the Titans overall is they're going to get 2 starting linemen back this week. The rookie Skoronski at guard, he's going to be back, and then Petit Frere was caught up in the gambling scandal, but his suspension got lifted early, like Jameson Williams did. So that's going to help that offensive line. That'll help protect Ryan Tannehill, and maybe that helps more passes get thrown accurately his way. Clearly is the number 1 receiver there.
All right,
He just needs his best quarterback to throw him the ball. So when Derrick Henry gets in the red zone, they just need to have that connection happen.
Let's do a few more rapid fire here. Jameson Williams will have blank effect on Amon-Ra St. Brown rest of season.
No.
Minimal.
0.
If Devon Achane continues playing at this pace, Raheem Mostert, well, he won't at this pace, but Raheem Mostert is the top blank running back rest of season.
25.
20.
And
Mostert's a buy low. He's an interesting buy low.
do you think Jeff Wilson? So high, buy low. Do you think Jeff Wilson it factors in?
Not
At
when
some
those
point.
two are healthy.
At some point, yeah.
Right. Well, eventually, one of them will not be healthy.
He will when one of them gets hurt.
Yep.
Okay. And Keenan Allen is a top blank wide receiver rest of season.
8.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. What game do you think we're playing today?
Fantasy Feud.
Guess what Adam's putting on his wall.
I actually have a very nice picture.
Guess the last time Adam shaved his face. I'm going to say 2 hours.
I think you should let the beard go.
No, I look horrible.
You look kind of manly, which is different for you.
Do I really? I don't think.
I like how you said
you
that. And he
look a
sat up
little-
straight. He's like,
I look sloppy. Well, I was trying to show off the beard. It's a little gray. We're playing the Fantasy Feud. Dave was right. You have to say your name
points for that.
to buzz in. We don't usually do a 3-person Fantasy Feud, so this will be interesting. But we'll see how it goes. I guess, how the hell is this going to work? I've never played a 3-person Fantasy Feud.
I don't even know how it would work.
Yeah.
Why don't we have the first round between 2 people, and then the winner takes on the person who sits out the second round?
Okay. Schaefer, who's playing in the first round? You can decide the 2.
Dave and Jamie.
Dave and Jamie, here we go.
Dun, 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 dun. I hope I get this because I love passing to Jamie. It's been a long time since I played Fantasy Feud against Jamie.
The top 5 answers are on the board. I'm looking for passing yards leaders.
Jamie. Kirk Cousins.
Is number 3. Number 3. Dave, you can try to get number 2 or number 1 here.
Josh Allen.
Sorry, I did not get my wrong buzzer queued up fast enough. I apologize. All right, Jamie, pass or play?
Pass.
Okay, Dave. You are up. You get 3 strikes. Got Kirk Cousins, number 3, off the board. Who are the top 5 passing yards leaders?
Tua.
Number 1.
Oh, why didn't I say Tua before? Passing yards leaders. Mahomes.
He stinks, in case you haven't realized.
What do you mean? How many passing yards does he have?
I don't know, but I'm not going to let you filibuster here. You're on the clock.
Okay. I don't think Justin Herbert is right.
5. Is that your guess?
Yeah. How many more guesses do I have?
Justin Herbert is number 5. So you now have number 1, number 3, and number 5. You have 2 more wrong answers.
2 more wrong answers. And what game are we playing again? Can you remind me?
5.
What are the rules?
4, 3, 2. Passing yards leader.
Goff had a big game.
Do you want that? Your second guess was not Goff. Your second guess was you ran out of time. Do you want Goff
Okay,
to be your
fine. Oh, hold on. There's a guy that's thrown for like 300 yards every game. Stafford.
Stafford is number 2. There's only 1 left. You've got Tua, Stafford, Cousins, and number 5, Herbert. Heath knows the answer.
Heath knows this.
And he's not participating.
It's got to be somebody off the radar.
5, 4.
Oh, could it be this? Could it be CJ Stroud?
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
You got it.
Oh!
Well done.
Nice work, dude.
Well done. That's the worst.
What'd you say?
It's so bad.
What do you mean bad?
You gave him 45 minutes to figure it out.
No, I don't think so. I think it was a legit win.
Can somebody tell me what the weather is in Sleepy Hollow? I need more time to look at all the teams.
I don't live in Sleepy Hollow anymore, Dave, so I don't know. But all right, our next category is going to be Dave versus Heath. The top 6 answers are on the board. I am just double checking to make sure I have the correct answers here. I don't have the correct answers here. What the hell?
Awesome.
Good
All right, I'll
game.
go to the last one. What? Wait a second. Oh, no, I did have the
Steve
right.
Harvey would never let this happen, Adam.
I did have the right answer.
Never.
Top 6 answers are on the board. Steve Harvey would announce the wrong Miss Universe, okay? Top 6 answers are on the board. I'm looking for the leaders in running back carries.
Dave. Kenneth Walker.
No. He's 8th.
Heath.
Yes.
Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs is incorrect. Dave,
Nope.
you
There we go.
get another guess, Dave. Running
I
back
get another
carries.
guess. Christian McCaffrey.
He's number 1. He has the most carries in the NFL.
Good job, Dave.
Pass or play?
We're passing the hell out of this.
Just so you know, whenever you watch Fantasy Family Feud, they always play, but you guys always pass. All right, Heath, top 6 answers are on the board. McCaffrey is off the board. Who are the next 5 running back carries leaders?
Yikes. I have no idea. Kyron Williams.
Number 9.
Oh, okay. Tony Pollard.
Number 3. You got that.
He's 3rd. Wow.
Actually, sorry, he's tied for second.
So we've got number 2 and what?
1. McCaffrey and Pollard.
Derrick Henry.
Also tied for second. So now you have the top 3.
James Conner.
11th. Only 4.
So how many are left?
4, 5, and 6.
Who's on a bye this week?
Oh, this is perfect. Yes.
5, 4.
Brian
3.
Robinson.
13th. All right, that was it.
13th.
That was
No, that was only my second miss.
That was your second. Sorry. Brian Robinson's 13th in carries, but he's only 5 carries behind number 6. So, okay. Anyway, yeah, you have one more guess. We have McCaffrey, Henry, and Pollard. We need 3 more.
Man, I've got no freaking clue.
Oh, there's one that's right up your alley.
4, 3.
Bijan Robinson.
Where is he? He's not very
Not
high.
ranked. Okay.
22nd. All right, Dave. It is your chance to go to 2-0 and win the feud.
Heath, what running back have you absolutely
Just answer the question.
crushed the last 2 weeks in your rankings? You've done a great job with Zach Moss. He's
And
got
he
to
is
be up there.
Number 6.
Number 6.
And
That's a
that's
win.
without even playing in week 1. Who else did we miss? Travis Etienne is 4 and David Montgomery is 5. And our final round between the 2 losers is Heath versus Jamie. I am looking for just straight up PPR fantasy points. The top 5 tight ends.
Jamie. Mark Andrews.
Is number 1. Pass or play?
Pass.
All right, Heath.
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce is incorrect.
TJ Hawkinson.
He stinks. Yes, Hawkinson. Oh, I suck at this game. I was doing non-PPR.
Okay.
PPR or non-PPR. I mean, Andrews and Hawkinson are both correct, but Andrews is number 1 in non-PPR and he's number 5 in full PPR. Which would you rather guess?
PPR.
All right. So Hawkinson is number 1. Andrews is number 5. We need 3 more.
And Kelce is still wrong in PPR?
Kelsey's 7th. Yeah.
Okay. Evan Ingram.
Number 4. You have 2
Sam
two
Laporta.
strikes left. Sam Laporta is number 2. 2 strikes left and 1 more to get.
What is
So
number
far, you've
2?
gotten Hawkinson, Laporta, Ingram, and Andrews.
And I have absolutely no idea.
Just keep staring at the chat. They'll tell you.
Zach Ertz.
Ertz is 10th.
Ertz was a good guess.
It was
Jake
Oh,
Ferguson.
Jamie's guy has to be.
8th. All right, we're looking for tight end 3 in PPR, Jamie. Your chance to steal.
Tight end 3 in PPR, and the other guys are Laporta, Ingram, Hawkinson, and Andrews.
Uh-huh.
And it's my guy, Dave says.
Well, I mean, that would have been my guess, but I think Heath just guessed him.
I don't know who it would be. Tight end 5 or tight end. Oh, I'm sorry. What number is it? Tight end 3. I have no idea.
4.
This has turned into a
3,
masterclass on how not to host and how to filibuster.
And how not to be a quiet guest. 5.
Hunter
4.
Henry.
That's a good guess. He's number 6. It is Cole Kmet.
With 1
Cole
game.
Kmet is tight end 3 right now with 189 yards and 2 touchdowns and 18 catches. And Jamie unceremoniously will exit with an 0-2 record on Fantasy Feud. Thank you, Jamie, for your time
I
today.
pass on the rest of the show.
And we will play. All right, that was good stuff. Thank you, guys. Would you rather do? Let's do Chicago, Washington. Chicago's-
Nah.
These 2 teams are both bottom 4 in points allowed, but the Commanders just played Buffalo and Philadelphia. Here's your stat of the game. DJ Moore has 5 catches of 20 or more air yards in 4 games. That is tied for the second most in the NFL, tied with Tyreek Hill. Only Justin Jefferson has more. DJ Moore, 5 catches of 20 or more air yards. The Commanders have allowed the second most receptions of 20 or more air yards. They're getting beat deep over and over. Week 1, not so bad. Week 2, 3, 4, that was Denver, Buffalo, and Philadelphia just destroying Washington deep. You guys really like DJ Moore, Heath. He seems like he's a must start. I think he's like top 15 for everyone, 16th for Jamie. 15th in PPR. So yeah, start Moore.
Start DJ Moore.
How do you feel about the Bears passing game with number 3 tight end Cole Kmet and Moore and Fields?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kmet's a starter at tight end. He's tied with DJ Moore for the season in terms of team target share. Chase Claypool's out of the picture, and so it's kind of consolidated a little bit in terms of the total targets. So I still don't think Justin Fields is going to be throwing for 275 yards or anything, but he should be okay.
So coming off that big game as the start of the week, you guys have him closer to 10th, 12th, something like that. So Dave, who are some quarterbacks you'd start over Justin Fields?
So I'm still working through my quarterback ranking. So this is all in pencil, but Richardson's going to be ahead of him. I think Jordan Love should still be ahead of him. He's taking on Las Vegas. It's a much easier matchup. Brock Purdy, I currently have ahead of him, and Russell Wilson, I have ahead of him. A couple things to keep in mind. First of all, bye week, so we don't have Justin Herbert. Second of all, I want to trust Fields. He had this amazing game, but it was against Denver, and if Chicago isn't the worst defense in the NFL, then Denver is. Those are the bottom two. Those are the matchups you want your players to be going up against right now. And it's not like Washington's defense is great. You talked about how they're getting burned by the deep ball. That's like the only thing that really helps me out when it comes to Justin Fields, because Fields has been good throwing the deep ball this year. I'm nervous to start him, but I don't know if I can find 12 other quarterbacks on a bye week that I'll confidently take ahead of him.
How about Jordan Love at the Raiders on Monday night? Or just
said that I would take Love over Fields as of now.
My bad. How about you, Heath?
Yeah, in 6 point I would. In 4 point I'd rather start Fields.
Brock Purdy against the Cowboys.
Said
Fields.
That one too. Purdy over Fields.
I paused. I was looking something up.
It's all good. I do that all the time. I'm sorry.
All right.
Hey, quick word on Kmet.
Oh yeah.
Heath mentioned this, but it's really true. The target share for Kmet the first 3 weeks of the season, these are games where Chase Claypool was playing, 17.9%. So pretty good for a tight end, but not great. Last week, without Claypool on the field, 28.1% target share, exactly what you're looking for. And snaps in the first 3 games when Claypool didn't play, the target share was over 35% for Cole Kmet. I think he'll be the number 2 option in this passing game. We're also not seeing Fields run nearly as much as we did last year. Last week, only 2 designed runs. And maybe that's just a byproduct of taking on Denver. But without that rushing upside, that kind of hurts Fields a little bit, in my opinion, but it helps his targets. It's why I'm confident in DJ Moore and why I don't hate Cole Kmet this week, even though the matchup is not exactly easy for him.
You guys did, well, yeah, that's the thing. The Commanders, last year they were great against tight ends, and so far this year they're number 1 against tight ends. It seems like a strength of their team. You didn't give a whole bunch of names that you're starting over Kmet that I'm about to ask you about again, did you?
No.
Okay.
No.
So Jake Ferguson against the Niners or Cole Kmet?
I've got Ferguson.
Kmet.
Cole Kmet or Dallas Goedert?
Kmet.
I've got her 1 spot higher.
Cole Kmet or Darren Waller at the Dolphins?
Kmet.
Waller's higher.
Cole Kmet or Daniel Jones, Superflex?
Daniel Jones.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. How do you feel about Khalil Herbert? I thought he might be a little bit higher in your rankings coming off the 18 carry, 4 catch performance, 22.2 fantasy points against the Broncos. And Washington, they're okay against the run. They're 15th against running backs, 4 yards per carry, 4.1 yards per carry allowed. Really good in the passing game, though. They don't give up a lot in the passing game, the running backs. Heath, how do you feel about Khalil Herbert? And actually, do you like him better or worse than Brian Robinson?
I prefer Brian Robinson. Better matchup for him. Think pretty similar type roles. Robinson is a high-end number 2 running back. Herbert, a low-end number 2 running back. But they're both solid starts as number 2 options for me.
Again, there's bye weeks, there's injuries at running back, so Khalil Herbert kind of falls into that range. The Commanders have actually been awesome at limiting yards after contact against running backs, and only 8 missed tackles this year against running backs. These are stats that hurt Khalil Herbert quite a bit. And last week was just the first time all year that he had a favorable game script. It was good to see him get a lot of work. I don't know if I can guarantee that he'll get the same amount of work against Washington.
Well,
It's not just bye weeks for me, though. I'd start Herbert. I mean, Miles Sanders will be dependent on his injury status, but I'd start him over Madison. I'd start him over Gibbs. I'd start him over Ramondre. I'd start him over Damian Pierce. I'd start him over Najee.
Madison against the Chiefs.
I've got him over Najee. I agree with that one.
Yeah. Najee against the Ravens. So, yeah, I mean, the game script thing, you guys expecting this to be a close game?
Yeah.
I'm expecting it to be a sloppy, low-scoring game.
Like, I don't know how you could ever expect the Commanders to blow somebody out.
And this is not the
Or the
first. I just have to disagree with one thing Dave said, and it's kind of been not just Dave, but this was not the first close game that the Bears played. Week 2, they were down by 3 points with like 3 minutes left. They threw a pick 6 against the Bucs, so it ended up being a 10-point game. But that was a close game in the fourth quarter, and Khalil Herbert had 7 carries in that game. Oh no, yeah, 7 carries. So I don't know what to
mess that game too.
I don't know what to make of it. Do they have to have a big lead for Khalil Herbert to get a ton of carries? I don't know.
I think it's got to be something like that.
All right, the guys are being cautious with him. He's number 2, maybe flex running.
But I love Brian Robinson. I think this is an awesome matchup for him. He's close to being a top 12 running back this week. I think he is in non-PPR.
You do have him 8th in non-PPR. Jamie has him 5th in non-PPR, 7th in full PPR. Heath, you're the low guy on Robinson, but still like him at 16. So, yeah, go ahead, Heath.
I mean, like, this is a fantastic matchup, but there's still plenty of Brian Robinson concerns. Like, if you told me that the Bears came out and built a 2-touchdown lead in the first half, I wouldn't be all that surprised by it. There's plenty of ways things can go wrong for the Commanders, and they can fall behind as well. So it is a potentially great spot for him. And if they're playing ahead, I think he has 20 rush attempts and rushes for more than 100 yards and probably a touchdown. But things can go almost as bad for him as they can for Khalil Herbert.
So the Bears have now allowed 19 or more PPR fantasy points to a running back in 7 of their last 9 games. Yowzers. Would you start Brian Robinson or David Montgomery against Carolina?
Montgomery.
I've got Montgomery higher.
Brian Robinson or Alvin Kamara?
I think that was your first cough of the show.
Yeah, I know. Getting better.
Yeah, Kamara. But I've got Kamara ranked too high. I'm looking at my rankings now.
Kamara or Robinson or Ramondre Stevenson against the Saints?
Oh, Robinson by a lot.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Washington wide receivers. Do you like either one of them? You know that Terry McLaurin does not have a single red zone target this year.
And yet he's led the team in targets all 4 games and leads the team in receptions all 4 games. He's been the number 1 guy for Sam Howell. And he should have had a big game last week. Howell was off target on a deep throw to McLaurin.
That last week was one little tiny data point, but one of the things I'd been complaining about the first 3 weeks of the season is how often Washington was throwing to their tight ends and how little they were throwing to their wide receivers. And that changed last week, but it was only 1 game. I think it was a combined 17 targets for McLaurin and Dotson. Hopefully things keep trending that direction.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I mean, it's probably because teams run on them and they lose all the time, but the Bears don't see a lot of wide receiver targets. No wide receiver this year has more than 8 targets against them. I think last year they saw very few targets from wide receivers. So they weren't good against wide receivers, but they weren't that bad because wide receivers didn't get targeted that much. So I know you guys are not starting Dotson. Dotson is, just he hasn't had more than 40 yards in any game. I know he scored a touchdown.
Borderline number 3.
Mm-hmm. Like a bye week replacement. We can use that term now.
Yeah. What about McLaurin?
He's a start. Each top target earning wide receiver that plays outside like McLaurin against Chicago has found at least 10 PPR points. That includes guys that you wouldn't even think of, like Rashee Rice with 10 PPR points. Sutton last week, I think he had 11 or 12 PPR points. I think that there's a higher ceiling for McLaurin than that, but I think that that's a safe floor.
Okay.
He's borderline number 2.
Would you start Marquise Brown or McLaurin?
Literally back to back. That was a great question. I would slightly prefer Terry McLaurin at this point in the week, but it's close enough that might change by Sunday morning.
I've got Brown one spot higher.
How about Adam Thielen at Detroit or McLaurin?
Thielen.
I think it's got to be Thielen.
Calvin
Thielen in
Ridley.
PPR. Do you like Thielen better in non-PPR?
No, PPR for me.
PPR.
Yeah.
How about Calvin Ridley or Terry McLaurin?
Oh, I was going to have Dave look that up. I should just look it up. But
What are we looking up?
I always like the Dave looks things up in the middle of the show bits. I had Adam Pfeiffer yesterday on Dynasty, FFT Dynasty, and he was talking about how the Bills like to play a lot of press coverage, and Calvin Ridley's really struggled with press coverage.
Huge. It's been a big problem for him this year. The Falcons came out and played heavy man coverage. They were the first team this year to play a lot of man coverage against Jacksonville. And he definitely struggled with it. Christian Kirk benefited from it. And also game script really helped Jacksonville last week. They didn't have to throw much. This week could be a little bit of a different story. I don't know if I'd start Fields over Lawrence just to get into that game a little bit. I have Ridley currently over McLaurin.
What were you going to say, Heath? Was that it?
No, I was just wondering if Dave, if Buffalo is really playing a lot of press man coverage, because that's something Ridley's really struggled with.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but they just lost their best cornerback, so they don't have AJ Terrell.
Yeah, they don't, but they do have a hell of a pass rush.
Well, let's focus on Calvin Ridley a little bit later, I guess, later in the week. But who do you have ranked higher right now, Ridley or McLaurin?
Ridley.
Yep, Ridley.
All right. Any interest in Logan Thomas?
No.
Any interest in the Commanders DST?
Sure.
Okay.
The Bears have given up so many points to opposing DSTs. Washington qualifies as a top 10 option.
We didn't take our second break yet, did we? I don't think so. Let's do that now. We'll take another break. When we come back, I've got some fun stats. I think they're fun. I'll get your thoughts on them. And the most traded list and your emails and some grade the trade right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Fun with stats. Thank you, New York City. Yeah, it's interesting. He says Adam's a trooper, has been giving us all the fantasy knowledge. I don't know about that. And not feeling 100%. Special thanks, Adam. So, and I didn't display that comment. It's interesting. I'm actually sick again. I have a new illness. And I think going forward, when the kids go back to school, I think I'm just going to rent an apartment for a month and let them get all their colds out of the way because they just keep infecting me. I'm sure we've all been there.
You just got to stay away from your kids.
Yeah, that's easy enough, right?
Yeah.
Fun with stats. Lamar Jackson, Heath, you talked about this on Sunday, I think. Lamar Jackson has 2 design runs from the 3-yard line or closer in 4 games. His career high for a season is 5. Love the way they're using him.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, he's just never been a goal line back. Basically, Lamar Jackson, he is now. Top 6 running backs in avoid rate, minimum 40 carries. Khalil Herbert going up against that Washington team that doesn't miss tackles. Khalil Herbert, Ken Walker, Raheem Mostert, Isaiah Pacheco, Zach Moss, and David Montgomery. Now, I will say if you lowered the threshold, McLaughlin and Achane would be the top 2, but 40 carries, it's Herbert, Walker, Mostert, Pacheco, Zach Moss, David Montgomery. And your bottom 6 in avoid rate, minimum 40 carries. This is a more interesting list, I think, because you got Zeke on there, you've got Dylan on there, you've got Gus Edwards on there, you've got Josh Kelly on there, but 2 other names not avoiding tackles, Miles Sanders and Tony Pollard.
That's new for Pollard.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is small sample, but does anyone make anything of that?
Well,
to be on.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot in the past during the great Zeke Pollard wars of 2021 and 2022. It's much easier to be the most efficient running back in the league when you're not on pace for 400 touches. It's much easier to do that on a workload of 10 to 12 touches per game than it is on a workload of 18 to 20. So I do think, like we saw last week, probably not a good indicator because it was a blowout win. But Pollard only had 11 rush attempts. I wonder if maybe they'd be a little better off if they were spelling him a little more often, but he's not been the same, like, but by the advanced stats and then also by the traditional stats, he's not been the same efficiency at all.
Yeah. I think I'm wondering, sometimes you get like a one bad week can really.
Yeah, I'm checking that out
I
now.
don't know if he just had a bad week in week 4 or whatever, but
He's got 2 games where he avoided 3 tackles and 2 games where he's avoided none. The games where he's avoided none, they beat the Giants 40-0 and they beat the Patriots 38-3. I don't know if we can make anything of it.
It's really a mixed bag of a schedule because he's played 2 of the worst tackling teams, I think, so far, the Giants and the Cardinals, and then he's played the Jets and the Patriots. So, like, it's easier to avoid tackles against some teams than others.
Yeah. Okay. Noah Fan touchdown. Top 10 players in, or top 6 players in end zone targets. Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton, Mike Evans, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, and Romeo Dobbs.
That's hilarious.
End zone targets. Lockett, Sutton, Evans, AJ Brown, Higgins, Dobbs.
How many of those guys were taken with a top 40 pick? 2?
Well, the thing that I thought was hilarious was like one of the biggest cases for DK Metcalf, who has been I think a great value at where he was drafted, but one of the biggest cases for him was, the touchdowns were bad last year, but we know he's going to get all these end zone targets. And then Tyler Lockett has more than him through the first 4 weeks of the season.
Yeah. I think Metcalf's probably catching up. I think he had the only end zone target last week. No, I mean, that's good for Lockett. I feel like they all came in one game, or most of them anyway. Well, that's probably not true.
Week 1, he had one that he should have caught.
Yeah. What about Dobbs in there? And Sutton? I mean, Sutton feels a little reliable, Heath?
Yes. I still feel like Sutton over Judy in terms of the Broncos' preferences. In terms of like the things that we like in wide receivers and fantasy upside, it's still Judy over Sutton, but I think Sutton is the more trusted option right now. The Dobbs is really interesting because, I mean, it's obviously we've only seen half a game from Christian Watson. But I don't think we should be just assuming that Christian Watson's going to be the number 1 Packers wide receiver rest of season. He's not my number 1 Packers wide receiver this week.
You know what those guys have in common?
What?
They both are averaging at least 7 targets per game. Sutton's at exactly 7. Dobbs is at 8.3. You've got to figure that Dobbs' target share will come down a little bit once Watson gets moving. But I agree with Heath. I think that Dobbs is the most reliable receiver for Jordan Love. And he'll be the most consistent for fantasy managers as well.
I mean, let's stick with the Broncos there, Heath. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's good.
Just pisses me off. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, the slot receiver, all of his numbers this year and last year, I won't bore you with the details. He's just better when he's out wide. And this is giving me little faith in things turning around. He just should not be pigeonholed as a slot receiver. And
that's probably where the best matchup is against the Jets this week, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. But just going forward, I mean, he's just been better out wide, and they're using him in the slot, and it's bothering me quite a bit.
Well, it
that
could
bother
be a case of who else do they have to put in the slot?
Does that bother you more than the fact that their most explosive wide receiver runs like 5 routes a game?
Look, Marvin Mims, you're talking about. I get the sense that at this point in his career, 4 games in, he's probably just a deep ball guy. But that's obviously an exaggeration, but he's probably.
I'd like to see him in the slot.
Fine, me too. Put Judy out wide for God's sake. Let's talk about Brandon Ayuk. One more thing here from Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is having, I don't know, one of the best statistical seasons of any wide receiver. He's 7th in target per route run rate, 1st in catches per route run rate, 2nd in ADOT, 1st in air yards per route run, 1st in yards per route run, and 2nd in yards per catch.
Yep.
What does that mean to you, Heath?
He's been spectacular. He is exhibiting star potential. If I wanted to be naysayer Heath, I would say, like, no receiver in the history of the universe has ever maintained this type of efficiency, and the targets aren't there for this type of fantasy production otherwise. But Like that's kind of the two sides of it. I think I'm assuming it was just decoy Samuel last week. And so I think that the target situation's probably going to be more balanced next week, but he looks really good. He's a number 2 wide receiver is how I'd view him, but his peripherals are that of a number 1.
For sure. Debo wasn't used downfield very much last week. His ADOT was curiously low. And all of the work that Ayuk had came against zone coverage. And I remember that one of the knocks that we had on him was that, well, he crushes man coverage, but zone coverage, he's reeled in a little bit. No, he had some huge gains last week against zone coverage. He's beating them there. The 49ers want to have more explosive plays in their offense. This is the perfect guy to have it with. He's definitely a number 2 wide receiver who's a must start because he can finish as a top 3 receiver any given week.
Yeah, I think that was probably the best game Purdy ever had throwing the ball downfield. We don't usually see such accuracy on those deep balls, but he and Ayuk were connecting.
He missed on one throw.
Yeah, I think he had the 4th best completion percentage ever with a minimum of 20 pass attempts. Okay, that was fun with stats. Thank you very much. Let's do some emails and grade the trade here. From Patrick, grade the trade. Half PPR, I give Josh Allen and Christian Watson. I get Anthony Richardson and A.J. Brown. So he gives up Allen and Christian Watson. He gets Anthony Richardson and A.J. Brown.
A+.
Yeah, I like it better if you're getting Richardson and Brown.
From Damian, I'm devastated at running back. I have Tyreek and Olave at wide receiver. Only start 2 receivers and a flex. I drafted Hurts and I picked up Richardson. Thinking of rolling with Richardson. What level RB1 can I expect in return for Jalen Hurts?
You could probably get Swift, ETN, Montgomery, maybe Connor, maybe Aaron Jones. That's about it.
I'd be happy with any of those guys.
Okay, and
maybe Derrick Henry. Maybe that's where you start.
From Kyle, 12-team PPR, give up Olave, get Tank Dell and Terry McLaurin. F.
Yeah, it's not enough.
I wouldn't go quite as far as an F, but
D.
Yeah, I think you probably traded a high-end number 2 for a pair of borderline number 2s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. All right, from Bob. Kyle Pitts and Shaq Leonard were dropped in my league. What are your thoughts?
Oh, maybe you consider Shaq Leonard.
Go check my horrible IDP team, see how Shaq Leonard.
I have not moved off Kyle Pitts in my starting lineup, but I have seen him dropped and I haven't added him either. So that's kind of where I'm at with Kyle Pitts. I'm just, can't, no action.
I spent about 5 minutes yesterday looking into what would happen if Taylor Heineke took over for Desmond Ridder. Heineke last year, remember, different team, different offense, has the exact same completion rate as Desmond Ridder this year at 62.2%, but he has last year he had a higher yards per attempt, higher touchdown rate, higher ADOT, higher percentage of throws that went 15 or more yards. So a little bit more of an aggressive passer. I think that would help Kyle Pitts. I think that's what you're waiting for if you've got Pitts. You're waiting for the Falcons to make a switch at quarterback.
Yeah. Shaq Leonard, by the way, his snaps 86% in week 1, 71%, 69%, 45% in week 4. I still think they're managing his workload a little bit, but he's certainly not. I mean, he's been a bust from an IDP perspective. Tom from a city northwest of Atlanta, 12-team half PPR. I was offered Puka and Pollard for Ridley and Henry. So give up Ridley and Henry, get Puka and Pollard.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And he's from Rome, Georgia.
What? You're happily getting Puka and Pollard for Ridley and Henry.
I think Pollard's the best player in the deal.
I would do it, yeah, but I'll say it's a B minus. How about you, Heath?
It's higher than that. It's at least a B.
I mean, I could see Henry and Pollard being the same and Cooper Kupp crushing Puka and really hating this deal.
Okay, so you're not doing it?
I'll go C. It's fine, but I'm not excited about it.
This is from No Name or City, Dave.
Bean from Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Dear Joe, Richard, Kenny, and Mark.
Joe, Richard, Kenny, Mark.
Do you think it's Richard Marks?
No.
They're Jets quarterbacks. He gave the answer. Joe Namath, Richard Todd, Ken O'Brien, Kenny O'Brien. I never heard him called Kenny O'Brien, and Mark Sanchez. I have Moss and
No,
Connor.
Boomer? Come on. Disrespect for Boomer.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I have Moss and Connor and Pollard and Roshan. Blah, blah, blah. I would give Zach Moss and Gabe Davis, and I would get Breece Hall.
Oh, A+.
Okay. All right. Thank you to Dave, Heath, Jamie, and Thomas, and all of our audience. Appreciate you watching and listening. We'll be back tomorrow with Starter Sit for the AFC home games on Fantasy Football Today.